Alright, so due to the minimum wage increase to $15 an hour, workers at Whole Foods from across the country are reporting that their hours are being cut. This is after Amazon, who owns Whole Foods, increased their wages to a minimum of $15 an hour. Now, obviously, this was not sanctioned by the government, so I have no issue in and of itself with Amazon under their own volition, even if I think it's a bad decision. I have no problem with them raising their own wages like this and dealing with any negative consequences. But it should still be pointed out that there are still negative effects that come from giving in to pressures like this. When you have workers protesting, striking, and petitioning the government to force things like this, and the employer you work for gives in before any legislation is passed, you may just want to be careful about what it is you are wishing for. So this whole thing actually reminds me of something that happened a while ago. Back in 1992, there was a famous study done. It was called the Card and Kruger study. It was taking a look at Pennsylvania and New Jersey, because New Jersey had just increased their minimum wage by 80 cents an hour. They wanted to compare and contrast these two states side by side and see if they can see any of the effects that minimum wage laws would have on employment. Well, what they found, to some people's surprise, was that there was no effect on unemployment. And in fact, despite the minimum wage increase, unemployment decreased by a small amount. Now, once this study came out, those who advocate for a minimum wage were celebrating in the streets. I mean, alright, not really, but they were very happy with this conclusion. Unfortunately for them, subsequent studies came out that pointed out some serious flaws and some other issues in New Jersey after the minimum wage increase. Now, as far as the Card and Kruger study is concerned, it was pointed out that they said that there was an 88% increase in the price of hamburgers. I point this out not because the price actually was raised by 88%, as that would be catastrophic, but it goes to show that Card and Kruger's numbers were likely way off. But it should be pointed out that with minimum wage increases, the money will have to actually be made up from somewhere. But it's the consumer who may suffer for it. And by the way, the consumer and the low-wage workers are the same person. So if the goal is to improve the life of the low-wage worker by getting them a higher wage, it is canceled out, at least to some degree, by any increase in prices. Because after all, what good is a higher wage if the prices around you increase with it? But anyway, furthermore, the study I mentioned, it was by Newmark and Washer. The study also contradicted the Card and Kruger study. Namely, it was pointed out that Card and Kruger relied on telephone surveys to collect their data, whereas Newmark and Washer collected their data through actual payroll records, which are slightly more reliable than telephone conversations. What they found was that in the years after the minimum wage increased, even among the businesses that Card and Kruger had a telephone conversation with, in which the business said that they did not lay anyone off, their actual payroll records that Newmark and Washer were looking at, those payroll records told a different story and showed that they did lose workers. So this study that was praised by minimum wage advocates was flawed right from the start. Also, it was shown that in the direct months after this minimum wage increase in New Jersey, it is certainly possible that there wasn't an increase in unemployment. That is a possibility. But much like what these Whole Foods employees are reporting, there was, in New Jersey, cuts in the hours that employees faced. So again, if we are just focusing on unemployment, there are other problems that will occur under the surface. It's like a paradox that's not really a paradox. How does one's wage increase yet decrease at the same time? Minimum wage. If the amount you're paid is $9 an hour and you're working 40 hours a week, you're getting $360 a week. If your wage is forcefully increased to $10 an hour and your hours are cut to 30 hours a week, you're making $300 a week. That is $240 a month you're losing out on, or $2,880 a year. So I wanted to mention all this because I wanted to point out that as much as people like myself who oppose minimum wage, as much as we say unemployment rises because of minimum wage, it should be noted that that is not the only issue that can come about. And in fact, unemployment may not rise more immediately than other problems, such as reduced hours or increased prices. Because after all, employers hire people for a reason. They want or need them. Most employers, especially among small to medium-sized businesses, don't want to let people go. So they may try and increase prices, cut hours, or tighten tighten their belt elsewhere before laying people off. Now, if you raise the minimum wage to $100 an hour or something, that would be a guarantee that businesses and jobs would just disappear left and right almost immediately. But thankfully, I haven't heard anyone actually calling for that yet. I await for that to happen, though. But if you keep minimum wage increases low, then unemployment might not be affected, or it might take some time for it to be affected. But in the meantime, there will be plenty of other negative effects that are a bit more hidden underneath the surface. Overall, due to reality, we cannot have a free lunch in this regard. I wish it weren't so, and I wish it was as simple as just having lawmakers write a bigger number down for workers, but unfortunately, it is not that simple. But that has got to be it for now. Please like and subscribe. That actually would be free for you to do, but take it easy, everyone. Bye.